Okay, so hello guys. Today we'll be seeing a lesser known version of against e4. Now against e4, the most common response is e5 because now knight f3, knight c6, and whatever you want to play. It has many responses. But here from black, some people don't like going on with e5. I mean, e5 is like just going symmetrical and all, and it's your own personal choice. So some people like going with either e6 or c6. This e6 is known as the French defense, and c6 is known as the Caro. So today we'll be looking at both of these lines and how black should be implementing them. So in e4, first we'll be looking at c6, the Caro. Now here black is usually trying to look for an endgame. So in this position, if white exchanges of these queens, this is most likely in the Caro-Kann, if you follow the entire Caro-Kann, it is most likely for black to be winning because it's endgame. In the endgame, black's pawn structure is much more safer. And for that, for your endgame strategy, you have to develop much slower than white. So for that, you have to find out, like, you can't go aggressive in the Caro-Kann. D4 is the only, like, it's not the most required. Some players still play knight f3, but it does not give you some really good advantage. What black has done by playing c6 is making sure that whatever white plays, he's going to play d5. Obviously, we'll be looking at this later also, but some players play the Panav attack. So with c4, what is happening is, if you go with d5, pawn into d5, pawn into d5, pawn into d5, and queen into d5 is most likely. Computer suggests this move, but like, he can try and defend it. Obviously, it's not defendable easily, but yeah, here most players like to take this knight here. Yeah, so the main point is what white is doing is, white is keeping in center pawn with him, which is isolated. Okay, so that is a huge weakness that he has given us to target in the middle game. Like, here sometimes, if this knight wasn't here, I would have played e5 also. This pawn we can anyways recapture, but castle taking away the opponent's castling, right? And according to Caro-Kann, like I told you before, end games are much more favorable for white, for black side. So that is something we'll look at later. Here we will look at the main line d4, which is you're most likely to encounter, and d5. Here now white has three options, which are the major three options. Others are like not dubious moves usually considered. E takes d5, knight c3, and e5. These are the most common three responses. White also can try some other unusual type of moves like bishop e3, and all of these are not usually considered good. You understand that, right? It's not usually considered feasible for um white. I mean, you're just not developing anything. Bishop e3, this piece is just moving twice, thrice unnecessary. So here we look at the most common response according to the Leech's database, and that is e5. It has been played 25,000 times, 26,000 times, sorry, 25,828, which is like 26,000. E5 is the most common response. And to e5, we are options over here. One of them is bishop f5, the major main computer line, and the other is the Botnovic-Karl's defense, c5. So in this position, bishop f5 is most common, and c5 is seen much lesser times. Bishop f5 has been played 20,594 times, while c5 has been played only 4,798 times. You can see the huge difference. But I would suggest you to play c5, because the point of c5 in the Botanic Karl's defense is you're tempting white to capture this. And if white captures this, this is most likely for black to win. Okay, so why is this so? That is because e6 is the only response. You cannot try anything other. Bishop f5, there is an immediate loss. I mean, not exactly an immediate loss. He can go first bishop check, knight here, and now he'll just come knight here. How are you going to recapture this? You play this, white, according to computer, should play this. So now the problem is you can't go into because this is just lost. So you're supposed to defend this knight. The best way to do that is this, and you're blocking off this. So it can simply castle, and this is a sorry, this is a huge advantage for white. So instead of that, you cannot afford to play bishop f5. That is just losing. So the only move in this position, yeah, sure, knight c6 is also possible. See, when you have gone in with the Botanic defense, you have given sorry. Um, where is it? Yeah, so when you have gone in for the Botanic defense, when you play c5, the Botanic defense, you give up this b5 square, which is really important can Caro can, because white usually tries to bring his knight here, bishop here, and target of c6. This is a really pretty much the idea of fight, and which is why in the Botanic defense into, you always need to be looking out for bishop. So here knight c6 is pretty much good, but e6 is what I would recommend. If you try to check, that doesn't matter. Here you can go knight here, it doesn't matter. Yes, computer says bishop d7, but knight here doesn't matter. You will usually try to come here and try to get here, but now we grab this saying no, you can't come here. Into, queen into, and bishop here. So now my idea is that I have removed this pin, and now my knight can threaten your queen. And now this e5 is also really badly defended. I mean, can you tell me any single pawn that can come to his defense? White's black's idea is there queen c7, knight here, bishop here to remove this pin, obviously, and just target of this square, this pawn. So which is why really few, I mean, most of the times people accept the Botanic defense, but sometimes people go with c3 by either knight here. So according to me, fights this should be the move, and to not play this. That could be considered a humongous blunder, because pawn push, pawn into, and queen into actually. I don't know why the computer is saying this, but queen into is much more feasible. Pawn push, and now this is just lost, I guess. I mean, it's too bad of a, you're giving the opponent too bad of an advantage. So less people accept that. And now we have seen in with the Bodnikal's defense. What if he plays c3? Then against this e3, knight here, and knight here, pressurize this. He plays bishop e3, defending this. Queen here, he has given up this. Queen d2 is forced, and now here. So you have stopped this bishop here. Bishop d3, and now here you go captures. Captures, and sure, bishop here also works into rook c8 is something I wouldn't advise. Instead, play this. Here, white will most likely castles, black also castles, I guess. And white will try to bring his pieces onto this open file. Rook c8, rook c1. And here, white tries to target of this and this. Here. Yeah, the computer is saying it's a 2.1 advantage. But here, literally, I can play against, don't go here, okay? And I guess I wouldn't suggest you to take up this exchange also. I guess you can go here now. Sorry, that's just a blunder. Wait, yeah, sorry. So now here knight here. See, the idea if he goes into is simple. Yeah, it's a double pawn and all, but this is a hanging pawn first of all. And yeah, if you are wondering why when the bishop came here the computer immediately dropped its eval, that is because into and bishop here, and that's game over. So I mean, in case any of you noticed, like when I played bishop here with misclick, whatever, that time why did the computer eval immediately show that black is winning? The simple reason is into and bishop b5, pinning this, pinning no, I mean whatever, skewering it. So for that reason, I mean black according to computer this is, but here now into, and I mean computer is saying it's a 3.4 advantage. But look at, I can tell you that this is definitely not a 3.5 advantage to white. Let's see if white plays here. Let's see how white can convert this 3 point whatever advantage to his win into. Sorry, second, right? So queen there, g3. Play what you want. Comes here. I don't care. I'll come here. Idea this. Queen here. Doesn't matter to us. Queen here. Pawn push. Knight into back. Bishop here. It's not gonna help him. Now, how do you stop this? This is an important question. Yeah, well, sure. He might have some attacking ideas, but I mean, in this position, you should be pretty well. Knight here, and yeah, I mean, it's not bad for you, and your opponent is definitely not going to be playing like a computer moves. So that is the and now let's see the exchange range. This in this position is the third most common move. Takes, and now bishop e3, stopping this bishop. According to me, against e5, if your opponent plays, if you want to play b5, it's not bad, I guess. But here, for white, I'm telling you, it has an immediate attack. I mean, this is going to be the really dangerous one. Here, he's forced to take this bishop and bring white's queen into the game. But in case if you come here, e6, and the game is over. Here itself, it is over. If you go takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, and queen here, how are you going to defend both of them? And definitely do not make this mistake, okay? Please do not. Because his knight can come here also and just jump down here. Unstoppable. And when it comes down here, check, king moves back, and this is like giving out mating threats because this knight is defending it, obviously. So, I was just trying to warn you about that. Okay, where's my variation? E4, C6, D4, D5, E5, bishop F5, bishop D3. Yeah, so here, and I'll show you another variation. D5, push, Bodnevicals. Here white plays C, yeah, C3, I guess. And the major one that I wanted to show you was E4, C6, D4, D5. And I guess it was in the exchange variation. No, it was, what was it? Guess it was, yeah. This, knight C3. Okay, now this is the classical variation. And now here, this is forced. Whenever you get the E4 pawn, either in French or in Caro, you always have to take it. Knight into, and now look at this. Bishop here is forced. Okay, this is purely forced. And this is the classical line. And here I'll show you the Kasparov variation, whatever. Bishop here, knight here, bishop here, and now knight f3. Here, white has to play knight d7. It is forced knight d7. And if white plays something like knight f6, the game is pretty much over, I guess. I mean, knight e5. What is black's response? Knight here? He doesn't care, into. Anyways, let's see the other variation. Here, he goes h5. This is known as the Kasparov variation. I mean, it is called the Kasparov variation. I can't, like, it's not shown here on this whatever title or whatever this is. Here, black is forced to play h6. I mean, if you just play knight here, then the game is over. h3, this bishop is trapped. What are you going to do? Here, doesn't matter. Rook here. How exactly are you going to defend this bishop? Yeah, sure, there could be some variation over there. But I want to show you without h4, if you go bishop d3, it's not possible. But still, like if you go knight f3, knight d7 is forced, bishop d3, and if you go knight f6, h4, first h4, h6 is not possible. So I guess, I mean, there's some variations, but majorly h4 and h6 is forced. Pawn push, bishop back, and bishop d3. This is one of the most common lines, and this can be done without playing knight f3 also. Bishop back, h4. This is known as the Kasparov line. h6, h5, bishop h7, bishop d3, and here he's forced to capture. I mean, if you are looking at this move, then a simple bishop into. Okay, yeah, sure, queen into, king into, and yeah, but if he goes queen into, bishop here, queen runs back, and here now black has given up his castling rights, which is not so, I mean, yeah, black has given up his castling rights on short castle, and long castle will be fatal because just look at these bishops. So here, most probably he will have to go bishop d3, queen d3, knight f6, I guess, knight f3, knight d7 again, stopping knight e5, bishop develops, and yeah, this is simple development. Okay, so now let's look at the French defense. We just now looked at the Caro, kann, and now let's look at the what do you call it? The French defense. Okay, e4. And now here the French defense is e6. The French defense. d4 again, just like the Caro, kann. d5 is forced. And now here, again, black has 2 to 3 options. f3 will be the fantasy variation in the French defense. And yeah, this is also pretty solid. Sure, queen check might be somewhat deadly. King here, queen into pawn, but some players like to play it like that. So not many players play the fantasy variation. The fantasy variation is the same in the Caro, kann, d4, d5, and f3. The fantasy variation. If he goes into, and the center is too strong. But yeah, sure. Let's look at the French defense, what you were looking at. e4, e6, d4, d5. And now let us look at e5, the advanced variation. Here c5 is pretty much forced. Bishop b4 is like just a blunder. Push, bishop is forced back. And now here just given him free 2 moves. Exactly. So we don't want to do that. So c5 forced. And now here, sorry about that. And now here, white is forced with c3. I mean, yeah, sure, white has multiple options to go in with it. He could maybe go knight here. Maybe he could go bishop here. All of these are variations. And takes. Takes is the least likely you're supposed to encounter. Because just look at this. Knight is going to jump out here. This knight is going to jump out here. Here. Carry down this. Queen c7. Sorry. Queen c7, bishop d7. And this is just like, I mean, this is the best position you can achieve from the French defense. If your opponent has accepted this. So usually your opponent won't accept it and plays c3. Here you computer suggests queen b6, but queen b6 is something I would not suggest. Instead, you should play knight c6. Develop knight here. Play bishop d7. Don't play bishop d7. Bishop here, then play bishop d7. Let him waste him. Now in this position, takes, and now do not play knight d7. The computer suggests that because the computer thinks knight here, knight here, but that is too slow, and you can't defend. Human can't defend with that. So bishop check is your only move. Knight here, bishop into, pawn into. Again, like I told you, the computer is not really good in this type of positions. This is a close position, and the computer usually does not like to play the French and Caro kann, which is why it is showing such low evals for us. But it's humanly it is playable. Of course, if the computer is playing against you, then yeah, sure, Caro kann in the French might give you some disadvantages. But for a human, it is like really hard to like to grasp whatever small advantage has been given to white. So yeah, that's the this thing, advanced variation. And now what if he goes takes? And that is, see, what happens in the Caro kann is that you are giving, you do not close out this bishop's here, and you're sacrificing much more development to keep the diagonal for this bishop open. While in the French defense, what you're doing is d5, d4, you have closed down this bishop. But if he goes this, if you notice, this is pretty much like the Botniaka's defense, except for this move. So in the French defense, you move much more faster, but you close down this bishop. So it's best route is bishop d7 or b6 and try to get it out on the a file. Never try to get it out from the this diagonal because you have solidified this too much. So you just can't try to move this pawn because it is always stopped by this pawn. So yeah, that's the point of it. Now let us look at the exchange variation. This is one of the most unstable, according to me, variation. Unstable, I guess it not exactly, but this e file is open, which is always expected. But yeah, sure, it is really, I mean, like you just can't do anything in the French defense. So, which is why it is like extremely dull. I mean, you just can't do anything. If you see, William Stennis, a really good player, has also said um, the exchange variation is a dull, drawish, and static opening. It's prompting William Stennis to write, I have never played in my life the French defense, which is among the dullest of openings. And after the 1870s, it became popular. So what happens is when white and black, usually both of them want this to be a draw. I mean, usually black. That is why he plays e6 or c6. That is the only, if you want a draw, that is the only reason why you play the French or Caro kann. I mean, if you're, for example, a 2000 federated player and you're playing against some, I'm not exactly 2000, if you are like 1400 federated and your opponent is a 2000 rated, and if you draw this match, you will, I mean, you'll have the feeling that yeah, I made a draw with a 2000 federated. And also that if you are playing on board one and you made a draw, there are high chances that you will come first if you're playing on board one, and it's the last round obviously. And if you're playing on board one and you make this as a draw, there are high chances you might come in as first position. So, which is why you might want to employ the French defense or the Caro kann. So now here in the French defense, there is not much. Here, like everybody just develops normally. There's nothing much in the French defense. Yeah, exactly. It's like a draw. So there's no attacking ideas, I would suggest. Okay, so now let's see what happens if he goes knight c3. And I guess in the French defense, Knight c3 is the most common response. Here, you have two options, knight f6 or d cross e4. I personally play d cross e4, but that gives a slight advantage to the opponent. So for that, you should, I guess you can choose on your own, knight f6. Let him play this and you bring your knight back. So yeah, again, you close down this position, the major idea. But again, knight c3 has this, according to me, this is my personal advice to you, okay? Even though I play d cross e4, my personal advice is to play bishop b4. So the idea of bishop b4 is forcing him to either play this or to play this. And the computer suggests this move and c5. This is the best, this structure, if you see, is the best achievable from the French or the Caro kann point of view, okay? So if you're able to achieve this structure with this pawn push, obviously, then you have a pretty good position. Whether the bishop is inside or outside, doesn't matter. If you're able to get this type of a pawn structure, you can see, right, white's pawn like this and black's pawns like this. If you are able to get in this position, I would say that, yeah, it's pretty good. So that is the idea. But if he goes into bishop b4 majorly forces him to do something with this pawn. He can't do anything. If he plays bishop e3, again, takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, and yeah, white is a double pawn, and sure. So bishop b4 is a major line for knight c3. But knight c3, I guess knight f6 is possible. And now I guess I don't see any point in like really explaining this position. c5, knight into back defending this, knight c6, and c3. So yeah, that's the point. But I will show you d cross e4, what happens. D cross e4, knight cross e4, and you have to play knight d7 because knight f6 is a must. And if you play knight f6, it's pretty lost. Queen into is something that I like. I would want some players to play, which could end up extremely deadly. Knight f3, and now let's ask against knight f3, what is White's idea with knight f3? So you can think about it and pause the video. I'll tell you what is White's idea. If black plays this, then white is usually winning because bishop g5. Here, bishop here. Here, h6. And now if you try to play like something like this, the game is over. Okay. So for that reason, queen takes is really deadly. So you're supposed to take g takes. And now here you have opened up your castling, you have put up a double pawn. That is why I don't like playing knight f6. Instead, knight d7, knight f3, and now knight f6. Knight takes. Yeah, and now this is a pretty solid position, not exactly, but yeah. c5, takes. Yeah, sure, all of this happens. So that is what I wanted to majorly show you. Castles, castles, and all this rook e1, qb6, q into here. Sure, like all that. Maybe like here, knight here. Sorry, h6, knight into back. And I'll just show you for a game that I was playing from white. I don't play e4 usually, but yeah, I'll show you something. And now here, black, I guess black played something like, I don't know what he played. I guess he played something rook e8, I guess. And now he played bishop f5. Here white went into, and I don't know what happened. Yeah, I guess this bishop came in here instead of the knight. Bishop here, h6. Yeah, I guess like here rook e1. I don't recall exactly what happened in the game. But yeah, sure, this is pretty much what was the position. Here he played, I guess, bishop d7, bishop here, queen into here. sacrificing, and here queen here f4, I guess, maybe, and all of this. But here, if your opponent is not careful and plays something like queen f6 or any move, you're threatening a mate over here. Okay, so I'm just warning you about it if you are playing from black. I mean, but I was looking at this match and I saw this. Okay, which is why I'm just telling you to be aware of this queen h7 threat always. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. This is the end of the video. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Yes.